Hello everyone, welcome back to another video on the Spright channel. Today we're going to be looking at a couple of random combos. So what I'm going to be doing actually is I am going to be showcasing combos with this deck with a random set of cards as my opening hand. So as you can see, I am going to do some quick riffle shuffles. Just as an FYI, everything is mixed up already. It's not meant to be a magic trick. I'm not meant to like try and bait you or stack cards on top. I will be doing a couple of cards as well in case you guys are worried about the cards being all at the top. So inevitably, I feel like we are going to run into some brick hands as well. If that does happen, then I guess like just kind of have to play your turn out as if you bricked. Now, what I forgot to bring is a singular die. We're going to be doing something different. So I'll say 2 test hands with no interruptions going first. And this is just going to be a going first video. I have a couple of ideas for other videos as well, but right now I think I'm just going to be doing a going first video. My idea is just like maybe I'll have a couple of end boards from other meta decks and I'll try and break them with my hands. So with the die, as an FYI as well, if you guys are watching this now, I'm probably already overseas. I'm recording this beforehand just so you have some content to watch while I am away. So yeah, hopefully this video suffices. Let's start with the first hand. I'll talk about the dice in a second. So 5 cards. Alright, so starting hand, so poly, crow, shifter, and this is the perfect example of like what a brick hand might look like, right? But the thing is, I don't think this hand would change that much because unless you have another level 2 engine on top of the pure Spright stuff, you're not really going to have anything better. So if you drew this hand going first, probably just set a super poly, a singular super poly, and you'll probably just pass because depending on what the opponent's playing, these two are like almost, definitely going to stop their turn if you play against the right deck. For example, Fire King, if you shifted them, Snake Eye Fire King, they basically pass or they make a pretty weak board depending on what they open up in the hand. If you play against a deck that loses to both shifter and draw, of course you can chain or activate shifter and then chain link to shut their deck down completely. And then if they somehow make a board, you can super poly into potentially drawing, hopefully a level 2 for next turn, and there we go. So if you manage to super poly anything away to end their turn, you can summon Melffy, Penny, and then link off into the Sprind on the following turn. Assuming shifter isn't live. Let's go for another hand. That is the perfect example of a hand that you don't want. Let's go for the next 5. We'll do 2 more on top of that one because that one was not a real hand, right? So we have double cross, imperm, super poly, blue, and angler. Alright, so going first, obviously going to normal summon angler. I always like to summon my monsters either in the 3rd zone or the 1st zone on the far left, just so that I can keep my far right one clear for any monsters that I want to stick around. And I think this only matters because Sprint's arrow points to the bottom left, and with the inclusion of double cross, I think it's a lot better to keep those zones clear just in case. As a heads up as well, I have changed up the deck a little bit from my deck profile just to play around with a couple of cards. I think I mentioned that in one of my previous videos, but double cross is now in over smashes just to test out the interactions. And then I also ended up putting in Meowmine, 1 copy of Meowmine plus IP is now replacing the Cerberus, but that might change later on. Alright, so normal summon angler, special blue. Again, the far left zone, blue's effect to search. Search for Jet. And then we are going to summon the Jet. The reason why I'm summoning Jet here instead of making Gigantic is because just in case some animal runs Ogre, like you never get punished for summoning the Jet first here in my opinion, which means it's always good to just summon the Jet out. So if they Ogre, obviously you can't summon the Jet anymore, at least Jet you can activate it to get the starter because I already have double cross in hand. And then from here we would go for Gigantic to play around Nib. Gigantic effect. That will be the 5th summon, or the one that's coming up now. Here I think what I'll grab, so you can either grab a carrot or a red, and then starter is going to bring out the other one. Obviously you do red with the gigantic, so you take 200 less damage here. If we didn't have this jet, this extra body to link off with, I'd probably summon Hyperia or Meowmine. Probably Hyperia because I like drawing. But in this case, because we have another body, we're going to go into the Spright Red. Then we're also going to activate Starter as well. We can again keep that for next turn, but I think we'll be able to shut them down, assuming they don't have Dark Ruler or anything like that. There we go. So we'll burn for 1000, then we'll link these two off. Into a Sprint. Sprint's effect will activate to dump, dumping Angler. Angler's effect to special 2. Summoning out a Beaver and another Beaver. And then we're going to overlay those into Melffy of the Forest. Oh, actually, okay, so the placement, as an FYI, because I'm doing this without thinking too much, I actually made a mistake already. So it's a very minor mistake, but it can come up. What I recommend doing is using zones that are already occupied and then putting the Sprint on top of the zone that's occupied already. That being the Anima zones, right? Like you want to play around Anima, but also you want to play with Double Cross in mind. So right now the Sprint points to an empty zone here, but also the Sprint zone occupies the link zone, which means you can't Anima the carrot unless you get rid of the Sprint. So I think it's better this way. Then we're going to Melffy of the Forest effect, attaching for cost to search. Grabbing out Caddy. And then we're going to set 3. And we're going to pass turn. So keep in mind that Super Poly is not going to be live right now, assuming that we special the Caddy at the end. So end phase, Caddy is going to be special summoned. A way we can, I'll put it here just in case. A way we can actually get Super Poly to be live is to bounce back Caddy, and then you can search for like a Beaver if you didn't open with one, in which case we didn't, right? So if you search a Beaver, you have full up for next turn. You can also discard Caddy this turn for Super Poly if you really need it. It's more like a, if you break my board and I have no other cards, I might as well just fuse off your board and then end your turn, and the next turn I have follow up with the Beaver that I'll add off Caddy. So let's keep that set. And then during their turn, if they normal summon a monster, obviously Caddy's going to bounce back. Normally, however, we would just go for the Penny. And then we're going to use Penny's effect, well, Forest effect first to target whatever they have to finish chain it. And then Penny effect to summon and quick synchro. And we're just going to put the Herald right over here. And then we have multiple interruptions, right? So we have, first of all, Sprint Bounce, attaching off Forest. We have the Carrot Negate. Preferably, you want to detach off the Forest first to bounce back something, and then you contribute either one of these to probably the Forest first with either Carrot or Red, and then obviously you can trigger the other one by tributing either one that has already used the effect, or the Sprint or the Forest. That was really convoluted, and I apologize for that, but yeah. On top of that, you can also choose to just go Herald first, so Herald effect to negate the activation and destroy something, and then you can double cross to bring it back. It also plays around Chord Buy, so if you tribute it for cost and they Chord Buy it, you can just double cross to bring it back. It's always nice. Back in the zone it belongs in, and then you also have Imperm, and again, if you feel like Super Poly is a better play here, you can also just search for a Nimble Beaver, which means you won't get to double cross the Omni Negate back, but you can still double cross one of their monsters, so it's still an interruption, and you get to Super Poly because you bounce back Caddy. Let's do one more opening hand. And while I shuffle, I'm going to talk about the idea behind the singular die here. So the die is going to be, I'm going to be rolling it, right? So we're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, those ranges. So if I land on 1, 2, I'll only have 1 hand trap to play against. If I land on 3, 4, I'll have 2 hand traps to play around. And 5, 6 is going to be 3 hand traps to play around. Now the hand traps of choice, I'm just going to pick the most common ones, which at the moment I believe are Ash, Imperm, and Veiler. And I'm just going to show you that this deck is sometimes able to play around hand traps, but not all the time. And I'm going to assume that they use the hand traps at the optimal times. So let's try and see what we can do with that. Actually, I'm going to make it Ash, Imperm, and Nib. So if I roll a 5 or 6, I'll assume that they have Nib as well. I have to play around all of those, but obviously I won't know, right? I'm going to hand trap myself during the first opportunity, first decent opportunity, that is. All right, let's do one more hand without being interrupted. 5 random cards after a power shuffle. We have Imperm, Draw, Double Cross, Jet, and Blue. Okay, so hard opening the Double Cross again, which is perfectly fine. We'll go normal summon Jet, again the third one or the first one. Special Blue, Blue effect to search. Blue is going to grab out Jet. And because I didn't include Droll in the hand traps, I'm just going to tell you now quickly. You can also summon Gigantic and then use the effect to summon Caddy instead of searching for the Caddy if you want that bounce into an Omni Negate as an FYI. So that's one way you can play around Droll. Otherwise, it doesn't impact you too much, assuming you open starter in hand. If you don't, it'll probably stop your Jet search if you search it off blue, whatever, depending on your hand. We'll go Jet effect to search, because again, we want to get one body on field before we go into Gigantic. Then the same thing as last time. We'll go Gigantic here, and then we're going to use the effect attaching for cost. Oh, not for cost, attaching on resolution to summon. Same thing here. So we'll go red carrot, carrot off starter. And like, to be honest, this is pretty much the exact same hand, except we have one more Spright Jet instead of a Penny, and we have a Droll instead of Super Poly. As long as you can get to that point, like, you're pretty set. You have so many layers of interruptions that it's just too easy to win. Alright, let's start with the hand traps now. So I'm going to roll the die here. Okay, ready? So it's 3. So we're going to play around an Imperm and an Ash. I'm going to assume that they use them at correct times. So let's see what we can open with. Alright, so our opening hand here looks pretty good, pretty solid. So we're assuming they have Imperm and Ash, right? Some people like to Imperm or Ash the Beaver, assuming that they're just hoping that I don't open another Spright, which is kind of interesting to me, but yeah. Alright, let's go normal summon Beaver, go Beaver effect. Assuming that goes through, we'll summon Angler. Then we're going to special summon the Jet. We'll go Jet effect. Let's say the Ash are here because they... actually, let's say they Imperm it because they wouldn't want to play around... they would want to play around talents. So let's say they Imperm this and they're holding the Ash for the Gigantic. We go, okay, that's fine. We'll overlay here. Summon Gigantic. We'll go Gigantic effect on 4th summon. Then we'll go Ash here. Okay, that's also fine. So here it's a bit rough because you can't really play around Nib anymore unless you just hard opened red. Because we have Carrot, we're going to put it down anyways. But you can also make the argument to not shotgun it here, I guess. So you're either playing around a second Imperm, which they would have already used on Gigantic here, or you're playing around not losing a free body to a Nibiru. But even looking at this hand right here, I feel like if they Nib you, it's kind of a bit rough already, because next turn, even if you kept the Carrot, like, what are you going to do with just an Ash and a Carrot? Right, so let's keep playing though, because they didn't have Nib, because we didn't roll a 5 or a 6. We're just going to play through this, right? Let's take the gamble, let's play the Carrot out. And we're going to link these guys off. Into a sprint effect. And then from here, it's just the standard combo. So dump Angler, summon 2 Beavers. I'm going to speed it up a bit because we're going to summon 2 Beavers. Then we're going to overlay with them, putting them under the zone here again. Under the sprint, that is. Then we'll go Forest effect, attaching for cost. Search the Caddy, and then move to the end phase, summon the Caddy. So we have a Fiendish Chain here, and Omni Negate that comes out of the Caddy. We have a Bounce Off Sprint, and we have a Spell Trap Negate, and that was through 2 hand traps, while we have an Ash in hand still. Okay, let's attempt that again. So obviously this is going to be a little harder to simulate because sometimes they hand trap the most random things. And sometimes it can work. Let's shuffle again. I'm not going to power shuffle each time because I just don't want to put in the effort to, you know, power shuffle and waste everyone's time. Let's do a quick roll again. So this roll is 6. We have to play around Nib, Ash, and Imperm. To be honest, when they have all 3 of those, you probably just lose anyways because you want to commit to the board as much as you can. Unless you hard open like every single hand trap. Every single monster. Okay, looks like a pretty solid hand. Every time you open Starter and Fenrir, obviously you can't play around Droll because you want to summon the Fenrir. So we're going to go main phase. First of all, special the Fenrir. And then we're going to activate Starter. I think most people would Ash here. So Ashing here would be fine, which means they have an Imperm and they would also have a Nibiru. So from here, if we commit to Sprint, if we go normal summon Meowmine, that's 2 summons, link those off into Sprint, 3, and then you can summon your Beavers, and that will be 5 summons. Even if you choose to summon 1, you'll have 1 Sprint and 1 Beaver, and then you overlay to make a Gigantic, that will still be 5 summons. So it's not worthwhile doing that to play around a Nibiru. So I think here, we'd probably just search with Fenrir. Like, if it's going to be linked off, you might as well. Otherwise, you might just bait a hand trap. Although I don't think anyone's stupid enough to hand trap Fenrir after seeing Starter. And I think here we'd probably just set the Imperm and pass. And we'll just hope to play next turn. So next turn, if they do clear the Fenrir and they play around the Crow and the Imperm, they might have like a decent board. We can still special the Fenrir and hopefully we draw a Spright off the top. We don't, but we might be able to link it to something and then make a Meowmine. Or maybe they have a link, so I can special the Meowmine and then normal summon the Angler. So as you can see, 3 hand traps is a bit hard to play around. Normally, if you commit to a full board and they happen to stop your Gigantic, it's just infinitely harder to play through. I've also had people just negate the Sprint after I use Gigantic's effect to summon something else, and then I have nothing else on the board except Sprint. Let's go with another roll, and this will be the last one. 3, so 2 hand traps. We have a blue, Droll, Jet, Fenrir, and Ash. Okay, so we have to play around an Imperm and an Ash. We'll go Special Fenrir first in the main phase, the far right zone because that's the monster we want to keep. Then we'll go Normal Summon the Jet, Special the Blue, we'll go Blue Effect. Let's say that they don't want that because they have 2 hand traps. They can go, let's say the Ash here. Okay, so Ash is fine. We'll go overlay here. Summon the Gigantic. We'll go Gigantic effect on the 4th summon. They'll Imperm it here. So you say, okay, that's fine. So here you can either choose to go into a Sprint into Forest plus Caddy, which means that you will have a Bounce, a Fiendish Chain, and an Omni Negate, as well as 2 hand traps. You can also debate on just like keeping the Fenrir alone, because Fenrir alone plus these 2, actually maybe with just these 2, I don't think it's worth it. Like you can top deck your Starter, you can top deck your Beavers, but I think it's worthwhile going for the Sprint line here. But before we sprint, we always go for the Fenrir search anyways, just to have follow up for next turn. If they draw you here, then you definitely don't commit to the Sprint line. But also, if they draw you here, they only have 2 cards to work with, plus whatever they draw on their turn. So we're going to link off here. Into Sprint. We've got Sprint effect. Sending Angler effect. Summon 2 Beavers. And then we're going to, again, overlay those 2. And because we have the far right zone free, we're just going to put that there. The Melffy the Forest effect, attaching for cost, search. Searching out the Caddy. And then of course we're going to proceed to end phase, summon the Caddy out in the far left zone, and then we'll pass turn. So it's still a pretty small board, but keep in mind that they did double hand trap you, and you have 2 hand traps for them as well. You have a bounce, you have a finish chain, and you have the Omni Negate off of Caddy. If they don't manage to do much with their hand, or if they're playing a deck that loses hard to one of these hand traps, let's say they're playing Branded and they just chuck it out and you ash them, or if they're playing Vanadium and you chuck out the draw and they just pass turn, well, they want to pass turn, you could just search Caddy, use Caddy to search Beaver instead. Obviously, you're going to have to do it in a different order. Let's say Caddy will have to be before it draws, is what I'm trying to say. Let's say you go Caddy effect, trigger in hand, search out Beaver, and then they do their search on whatever. Let's say they summon a Rykart, Scareclaw Rykart. So Scareclaw Rykart's effect activates, then you go Caddy effect activates. They add their arrival, and then on resolution you can still draw them. And then with this hand here, like, they're not doing anything, let's be real, right? You can finish chain them as well, so they don't kill your sprint, and then during your turn you can normal summon Beaver, and then just do your thing, full combo them. I hope that was useful for you guys. I will be back towards the end of this month, this being April. After that, I will probably have a couple more videos for you guys. Remember that this is before the ban list. If the ban list does drop beforehand, that is the April list of 2024. If the list does drop, I don't think I'll be able to make any videos until I get back anyways to cover the content. So hopefully it drops before then, but if not, it is what it is. Alright, I hope you guys had fun watching this video. Hope it was informative. If you have any questions or any videos you want me to make, as per usual, leave them in the comments. I'll take a look. Alright, all the best. Bye.